Hello and welcome to On Track GP. I'm Jamie Chambers and today we are going to be looking at the top 10 drivers with the most F1 points without a win. In F1, there are some records you want and some you don't, and the driver with the most points but no win is certainly part of the latter category. While there are plenty of drivers on this list with an impressive career points tally, they certainly do not have a trophy at home to show for it. In Red Bull, Mercedes and Ferrari's rear view mirrors are Formula One's dreamers. Perhaps 2024 is their year when the stars align and their first Grand Prix victory becomes a reality, defying their previous F1 stats. Half the current grid have popped a champagne bottle atop the F1 podium, while 3 rookies are only now getting their chance to shine in F1 machinery. So that leaves 7 talented sportsmen who want to send past near misses, heartbreaks and frustrations into insignificance. Through this season's vast calendar and the top 10 places giving out points, current drivers rack up their totals quickly and dominate our list of the top point scorers who have never won a Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz would have led this unwanted category of F1 stats had he not taken his maiden victory at Silverstone last year. And George Russell would also have appeared, but also got off the mark with his first ever Formula One win in 2022. But other drivers, past and present, haven't been so lucky. Who are they? Let's take a look. Coming in at number 10 is the German driver Adrien Sutil, who managed to accumulate 124 points, but was never quite able to get on the winner's step, or even the podium for that matter. The former Spiker, Force India and Sauber driver made his debut in 2007 before dropping out at the end of the 2011 campaign, following his first stint with Force India. However, 2 years later and he was back in the car, appearing alongside Paul di Resta for the 2013 season. But his return was short-lived as he spent a single season at his former team before moving on to Sauber for the final year as a full-time Formula One driver. The best result the German achieved was the P4 he got in the 2009 Italian Grand Prix, where he managed to put the fastest lap in as well. However, he missed out on the podium to Kimi Räikkönen by under half a second. Number 9, Kamui Kobayashi, 125 points. Like the man before him, Kamui Kobayashi also spent a period on the sidelines before a return, but unlike Sutil, Kobayashi did manage to record a podium in his Formula One career. Competing in 75 races, most notably for Sauber, he achieved 125 points, but there is one memorable moment that stands out in Kobayashi's career. In 2012, and in what would prove to be the penultimate season of his career, Kobayashi secured his one and only podium and did so at his home Grand Prix in Suzuka. It was the first for a Japanese driver since Takuma Sato in 2004 and remains the last podium scored in F1 by a Japanese driver. He achieved this feat by keeping the McLarens of Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton at bay and pipping the former by just half a second. Number 8, Kevin Magnussen, 186 points. When K-Mag started his career with a P2, there would have been few that would have guessed that 8 years later, he is yet to return to the podium. The Dane announced himself with his podium position for McLaren in Australia, but the following season he was moved down the pecking order behind Fernando Alonso. The year after, he joined Renault for a full-time seat, but Magnussen has never had a car in the same league as the first one he drove with McLaren. Having spent a period out of the sport, Magnussen returned in the most unlikely of circumstances for Haas in 2022 and marked his comeback with a P5 in his first race and a shock maiden pole position in Sao Paulo for both he and the team. But the Dane is also the first name on this list so far to still have a race seat, so maybe this time next year, Magnussen won't still be searching for his first win. We know that's very unlikely though. Number 7, Daniil Kvyat, 202 points. Daniil Kvyat spent the entirety of his career in the Red Bull family, including a short stint at the senior team. That perhaps represented his best shot at a race win, and he did come close with a P3 in China, but also disappointed for his first season. He was replaced after just 4 races in 2016 by a certain Max Verstappen. After that, he moved back to Toro Rosso and drove with them for their first season as AlphaTauri, before getting the boot with Yuki Tsunoda coming in to replace him. That was the last time the Russian drove in F1, but he will take part in this year's WEC with Prema Racing. Number 6, Alex Albon, 228 points. Of all the drivers on this list, it is undoubtedly Alex Albon who has come closest to a race win. A year after denying Albon his first podium, Lewis Hamilton once again cost the British tyre driver dearly when he tagged him as the then Red Bull man went from an overtake during the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix. Albon had genuine pace throughout the race and soon found himself on the gearbox of Hamilton before attempting a move around the outside, only for Hamilton to block him off and eventually touch his rear wheel at a time when Albon was in front of the Mercedes. The Red Bull driver spun into the gravel and lost his chance of a first podium and a first win. The hit had a costly effect on Albon's career and he was replaced by Sergio Perez in 2021, but did make his comeback with Williams in 2022. Number 5, Lance Stroll, 267 points. Lance Stroll is the second youngest member on this list, so time is definitely on his side, and let's be honest, his dad is the team owner, so it's unlikely that he's going to be dumped out of the sport anytime soon. The Canadian has earned a respectable 267 points in his career to date and has finished on the podium 3 times, including 1 with Williams and 2 with Racing Point in 2020. He also has a pole position from that year too. That Williams podium is also somewhat of a record because even though George Russell is listed as the last driver to finish in the top 3 for the historic team, that came during the infamous 2021 Belgian Grand Prix where no laps were raced without a safety car. With his place at Aston Martin secured, Stroll can be optimistic for the future at this ambitious team, and although he may be the pay driver tag still attached to him, his performances against Sebastian Vettel in 2022 show he is more than capable of doing more than some assume. Number 4, Nick Heidfeld, 259 points. The second of 3 Germans on this list scored plenty of podiums in his career, 13 in total, but was never quite able to go all the way to P1. He was in F1 for 11 seasons, starting with Prost Grand Prix before spending 3 years at Sauber, but it was his second stint at the team where he had the most success. Heidfeld finished 5th and then 6th in the 2006 and 2007 championships, including 4 P2s in the latter season. Heidfeld appeared for just 5 races in 2010 before leaving the sport in 2011 with a respectable 259 career points to his name. Number 3, Romain Grosjean, 391 points. The man who rose from fire comes in 3rd after a long F1 career that saw him compete in 10 seasons. With a reputation for a, shall we say, bold overtaking style, Grosjean could perhaps have had more points, especially during his years at Lotus, but retired with a total of 50 times in his career. His best result was a P2, which he twice earned in North America, starting with Canada 2012 and in USA in 2013. When he moved to Haas in 2016, he started with a P6, but as the car became less competitive as time went on, he moved further and further down the grid until he left the team and the sport at the end of 2020, following his fiery crash at the Bahrain Grand Prix. Number 2, Nico Hulkenberg, 530 points. 530 points is certainly no small achievement. In fact, there are plenty of race winners who have scored far fewer, but Hulkenberg has never been able to get near the top of the grid. His best chance came at Spa in 2016 when he managed P4 with Force India and when he returned for a dramatic super sub appearance for the speedy Racing Point in 2020. But as is the case with the poor luck that seems to follow the German, his car had a clutch power unit problem and he was unable to start the race. After a 3-year exile from a full-time seat, Hulkenberg is back for 2023 and 2024 with Haas. Though it seems unrealistic, he need only look at the examples of Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon in recent years for the fact that anything can happen on race day. Number 1, Lando Norris, 623 points. Like Stroll, Lando Norris's young age makes it all the more impressive that he should be so high up on this list. The 23-year-old stock in the sport has certainly grown each year he has competed, and yet the British sensation still hasn't won a Grand Prix. He came painfully close at the 2021 Russian Grand Prix, confidently leading the race throughout from Lewis Hamilton. Norris's gamble to stay on slick tyres backfired and the Mercedes driver swept through on intermediate tyres inside 3 laps to go. 1 week earlier, Norris might have ended McLaren's 11-year victory drought himself, but that honour fell to Danny Ricciardo as Norris was told by his team to hold station, with McLaren speeding towards a spectacular 1-2 finish at Monza. But if the McLaren car can match his talents in 2024, then a race win is certainly a possibility. So there you have it. That has been On Track GP's rundown of the top 10 drivers with the most F1 points without a win in their career to date. It's an interesting list with some big names. Let us know what you think in the comments, and remember to like, comment, share and subscribe. This has been On Track GP. I've been Jamie Chambers. Keep the pedal to the metal, and I'll catch you in the next video.